Welcome, or should I say welcome back to the Eco-Conscious Diver Show. After a brief hiatus and a lot of people asking, what's up, what's going on, when is the next season coming out, I finally decided I know exactly what direction I want to take this podcast to help you guys in the realm of ocean conservation, and I am so excited to get started. So you may be thinking, what are you talking about? There's a new direction. You're not doing interviews anymore. What's happening? So after just reviewing all of the episodes of last season, we heard so many inspirational stories from people in the field, different positions, different initiatives, all the different things that people are doing, so many positive role models in this field. And I just thought, what's next? What next level of value can I bring to you guys as the listener that will help you on your conservation journey? It's no secret that the ocean needs our help. And it doesn't just need me on my Instagram or on my podcast talking about stuff that has to do with the ocean. It needs all of us. We all need to take different actions and use our unique skills for marine conservation. For this reason, this season of the podcast is going to really focus on conservation workshops and past and present conservation stories. So for our first workshop, I want to get back to my roots and back to my first bachelor's degree and my career, which was in advertising and communication studies. In my studies, we covered all different types of communication: strategic, interpersonal, business, family. And I always said that I wish that everyone in the whole world had to take these communication courses because the world would be a better place. And I firmly believe that. I think we should take these courses in high school. It's just crazy how we communicate can affect our emotions and other people's emotions. So, the first workshop is going to be an introduction to positive conservation communication. Now, you may have seen a post on my Instagram about this, and the reason I'm really focusing on this right now is in light of the recent election. I've seen so many people, really focusing on the doom and gloom and shaming other political parties. Of course, I'm talking about the U.S. election. And I want to shine a light on the fact that marine conservation is something that we're trying to recruit other people to. We want other people to join our cause so that we can help save our ocean. This isn't an elite club that only some of us are a part of. We want people to feel like this is a positive movement that they can join. So I hope you'll join me, and let's learn about some positive conservation communication. All right, let's jump in. This is episode 19 with Caitlin McCall. Welcome to the Eco-Conscious Diver Show. I'm your host, Caitlin, PADI scuba instructor, scientific diver, and science communication specialist. I'm here to remind you that being eco-conscious is cool, learning about the environment can be fun, and climate change isn't a dirty phrase. Each week, I'll be teaching you how to use your unique skills for marine conservation and giving you insight into past and present conservation stories so that you can create epic change in your own life and become the best version of yourself possible. Are you ready to dive? Okay, so let's jump right into it. So for people like us who obviously love the ocean, we love wildlife, it seems obvious, right? It's like, of course we want to do this. Of course we want to protect the ocean that we love. But the things that I'm going to teach you today are geared more towards people who need reasoning behind the reason to do this. They want to know, is this going to cost tax dollars? What about voting? What about land use and this sort of stuff. So what I'm going to teach you is really going to be what will resonate with people who maybe aren't inherently wildlife and ocean lovers. Okay, so the first key theme which resonates with these type of people is instilling urgency. but doing it without the doom and gloom. So obviously there's a heightened concern right now about conservation problems more than there was in the recent past. But there still needs to be a reason to take action rather than just deferring it to the future. And people want to see proactive plans for immediate action for a lot of reasons, but the cost implications of delay are understood globally. So the best compelling message in this is, here's an example of what you could say. If we don't take care of what we have now, it will cost more to restore our natural areas and water in the future. Ding, ding, ding. It's going to cost money. So the second way I want to talk about communicating conservation is by connecting conservation to public health. And you can do that with both physical or mental health. So obviously people want clean air, clean water, and they instinctively care about those because of the benefits of air and water. But the messaging should stress that there's many ways that protecting our land, water, wildlife in general protects our own health. So this is bringing it back to the human condition. People see other connections between conservation of nature and public health, and they recognize that nature is a source of our food, important medicines, and critical lands for recreation. But people also everyone knows that, in order to de-stress or get away, relax, the best way is actually to get out into nature. So one of the phrases that was actually recorded in a study as having a really, really strong connection is this one as follows. Our health is of vital importance. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and medicines that cure many illnesses all come from nature. And studies have shown that spending time in nature is better at relieving depression than prescription medicines. Protecting our land and water will keep us all healthy, both physically and mentally. So, what a better reason than that? Your own mental and physical health. What else is there? So next I want to stress what kind of phrases, the type of language that we're using. And we should always imply ownership and inclusion. Remember how I said we wanted people to join marine conservation movement? So obviously these are words such as our and we. So you can describe it as our natural areas, or say we need to act now to conserve our natural areas. So next I want to talk about something that kind of hits home to me, which is using a future generations message and images of children or families in the outdoors. I say this hits close to home for me because my why, my reason behind marine conservation for myself is that I want to be able to share a coral reef with my grandchildren one day. And so it's interesting that this has such an emotional draw for people. It definitely does for me, as you can tell. So while a message focused on future generations rates lower overall than it has in the past, the concept of protecting water for our children and grandchildren is one that people organically just support for one reason or another. And it also really tends to resonate more with some of the key audiences that sometimes don't resonate with conservation. For example, like sportsmen and conservatives, especially when we use language that evokes passing on outdoor traditions to the next generation. Maybe you want to go fishing with your grandchildren, so there needs to be fish, right? So in other research, images of children playing outdoors, like in streams or beaches, are really, really highly compelling visuals. So people definitely are pulled with their heartstrings on that one. Okay, so this next one I think is huge, and this is coupling outdoor recreation with economic impact. I mean, who can argue with that? So it's also really important to be specific in talking about outdoor recreation when you're doing this. So talk about activities that you would see people doing on the ocean, like fishing, boating, swimming, snorkeling, scuba diving, surfing, paddle boarding, whatever it is that people are doing out there. Because the more vivid the language on this, the more likely people are to see themselves actually using these lands and enjoying the benefits of this area that we're trying to protect. So it's particularly true if more passive recreation examples are included in the list, just because it gives people this image of themselves relaxing, whether it be on the beach or scuba diving on vacation, that sort of stuff. So a way that we might communicate that would be talking about how coral reefs are worth, millions of dollars globally, and they're worth more alive than they are dead. How much this would impact, where I live in Florida. Okay, so the last point I want to make here is something not to do. And I see this happen all the time. And it's easy to understand why from maybe our perspective, but let me explain. So I do not want you to make global warming or climate change the primary rationale for conservation. And this is because it's the most politically polarizing rationale for conservation that there is. And I'm sure I don't have to explain why. Probably half of the US, if not more, don't even believe in global warming or climate change and don't have faith in the scientists who are pushing this. So obviously it's become something that is political, unfortunately, and it's not a good pushing point for conservation. Like I was saying before, some of the best ways are bringing it back to the human condition and human health. And I know that you may think it's sort of sad that, humans are so self-centered that we have to have something affect us in order to care about it. But it's the way that humans are built. It's our survival it's just our survival mode, I guess. Thankfully, there's people like you and I who just love the ocean, love wildlife, and don't need more to protect it than that. But as I said before, we're trying to get people to join our cause, and so we need to learn how to communicate this in a way that other people will understand as well. All right, guys, now I want to tell you an amazing marine conservation story that just sort of came out of nowhere and into my life, and it made me tear up, and it was just so motivational. So I really wanted to share it with you. So when I say that this story just sort of came into my life out of nowhere, that's because I was reading this book that I absolutely love. I've read it several times now. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. It's just called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. You may have heard of Tony Robbins. He kind of travels around and does self-help seminars and books. Absolutely amazing guy. But he told this story to prove a point. And so his point is that one person can change the world. One person can make a difference. And so I just want to read this story to you because I feel like it really struck a chord with me. He knew he must stop them. With a mere $800 in his pocket, Sam LaBud drove across the Mexican border, stood on the fishing docks of Ensenada, and waited for his opportunity. Toting a video camera to get some home movies of his excursion, he posed as a Native American tourist and offered his services as a deckhand or engineer to each captain who docked his boat in the harbor. He was hired on the Maria Luisa as a temporary crew member and as a Panamanian tuna boat pulled away from the Mexican coast. LaBud began to secretly film the activities of the crew. He knew that if he were discovered, his life would be in jeopardy. Finally, it happened. They were surrounded. A whole school of dolphins, known to many as water people, began jumping and chattering near the Maria Luisa. Their friendly nature had drawn them to the boat. Little did they know that they were also being drawn to their death. The fishermen trailed the dolphins because they knew that yellowfin tuna usually swim below the playful creatures. With cold-blooded calculation, they lay their nets in the path of the dolphins, not noticing or even caring what happened to them. Over the course of 5 hours, Labud's video recorded the horror. One after another, dolphins became entangled in the nets, unable to free themselves and come to the surface for the oxygen they needed to stay alive. At one point, the captain bellowed, "How many in the net?" As Labud swung to capture the slaughter on video, he heard a crew member yell, "About 50." The captain ordered the crew to haul in their catch. Numerous dolphins lay strangled and lifeless on the slippery deck as the crew separated them from the tuna and discarded their sleek gray bodies. Eventually, the corpses of these magnificent animals were tossed overboard as casually as sacks of garbage. Labud's footage gave clear-cut evidence of what others had claimed for years, that hundreds of dolphins were regularly being killed in a single day's fishing expedition. Estimates are that over 6 million dolphins had been killed in the last 10 years alone. Edited down to an 11-minute format, Labud's video stunned viewers with the heart-wrenching reality of what we were doing to these intelligent and affectionate beings with whom we share our planet. One by one, outraged consumers across the nation stopped buying tuna, launching a boycott that only gained speed as media attention became more pointed. Just 4 years later, after Labud first captured the tragedy on film in 1991, the world's largest tuna canner, Starkist, announced that it would no longer pack tuna caught in purse-seine nets. Chicken of the Sea and Bumblebee Seafoods followed suit, issuing similar statements just hours later. While the fight was not over, unregulated foreign tuna boats still kill 6 times as many dolphins as did the U.S. boats. Labud's day on the Maria Luisa has served as a catalyst for major reform in the American tuna industry, saving countless dolphin lives and undoubtedly helping to restore some balance to the marine ecosystem. And this is finished with a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which says, "Every man is an impossibility until he is born." I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast and learned some valuable information about the journey of conservation. This is a constant process of learning, growth, and understanding. Please leave a review if you can and go to www.eco-consciousdiver.com to check out other podcasts and all the other things we've got going on there. See you next week.